interviewed two. We can say that now. On today's show, we're taking a look at the legacy of the Colorado Avalanche front office and some of the banger trades that the modern front office has made. Let's start the show.
Beautiful Friday, and it is the DNVR Avs show and pod talking about the legacy of the front office on a very special and emotional day. And we are proud to be bringing it to you from the Toyota Lounge, brought to you by our Front Range Toyota dealers, high above the DNVR bar on York and Colfax, where we are coming to you thanks to our friends at Bet365, who are our presented sponsor. And with Bet365, it is never ordinary. Make sure you sign up for Bet365. Use code DNVR365. Get yourself a little bit of bonus bet action when you make a quick bet. And I could use a little extra bonus betting money right now as well, because it's been a bit of a cold streak for me, bud.
You only need bonus bets if you don't win your bets, buddy.
Yeah, I'm not winning. I'm not winning a lot. Not winning at all right now, but that's all right. Gizmo, Rudo, Biggie, and Tiff with you today. Happy Friday, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. The boys are back at home. They did have an optional skate today that was basically not really attended. Manson got a little bit of skating time in as he continues to rehab. And then the two besties got out there a little bit, Mitzi and McKinnon, just working on little things. Nothing really to talk about from practice today. They're banged up. It's a long road trip, and they're not banged up injury-wise per se, but the team is sick. There's a little cold stretch going through the group, so there's sniffles and whatnot, and so didn't expect to see much today, and I think a little bit of a lighter day for them was probably what was called for after getting back home for just a few.
I'll say it again. God, I hate saying it. I said it 5,000 times yesterday. First game back after a long road trip. If you've never lived it, I've lived it. I can tell you. I ran into a guy leaving practice ring this morning. Somebody that played in the NHL 20 years, and he's like laughing. He's like, "Oh yeah, the old first game back last night." It's a fact. It's a fact. Yeah. If you've lived it, and if things don't go your way, if things don't go the way they're supposed to do, you'll have no gas. And that's just the way it was. And you can throw everything out the window, and you can throw all the analysis out the window, and all the numbers, and all the eye tests, and all. You throw that one out the window. It didn't go your way. Move on. There's nobody, tried. Nobody, tried to go that way. Everybody was doing their best. It just wasn't in the cards. That's it. It's all good.
I mean, Jared Bednar said it. The team's under the weather right now. And when you look at the way they played last night, and then you get told that team's under the weather, the light bulb kind of turns on, and you go, well, that adds up a little bit.
Couple that with bad bounces.
Yeah.
We talked about it on the postgame show when I called in from the rink with you boys, but you got a tough bounce off the first lucky goal. Second one hits, two guys and finds the net, and the third one's a bang bang play.
I travel. I get home. I put my stuff in there. I don't want to move for 24, 48 hours.
Right.
I mean, let alone, and I know they're well conditioned athletes, but I also got sick 2 weeks ago, and you guys know that. I mean, most guys would have been on the hospital with an IV, but not me. I was on the show, but. What I'm trying to say is I just wanted to bundle up in a room and not even, I was like, my wife was yelling at me like, what are you doing? You got the sniffles. You know what I mean? So yeah, when you're under the weather, it just can knock you down.
Some games, some teams have to play against two teams, right? You play against your opponent, you play against the refs. When you have to play against physics too, you're in trouble, all right? You're not going to win a lot of games against physics, so...
It was.
I never liked physics. I didn't pass.
I didn't take physics. Other thoughts from last night? I thought otherwise. What I do really like about the vibe right now from the guys, even in the room after that game, post game, there's an effervescence again.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. But I think it's one of those things for me that I continue to keep seeing And Jerry Bednar mentioned it last night. He mentioned it again today. He talked about the guys that the room is just a little bit lighter now. They're a little bit more upbeat. There's a little bit more laughing and joking and smiling, and guys are hanging around. And I think you can see that on the ice, except for last night, but that was an exception.
Yeah, I think you felt it in the room, and I think the vibes are still good around the team, even with a loss like that. And you could see it in some of the interviews and things where guys were like, yeah, we got bad puck bounces and some nonsense happened. Of course, we can play better, but you didn't have a bunch of guys in the locker room saying, well, we got to be perfect. You got to be perfect in the NHL. Everything's got to be perfect. They didn't feel so serious about a loss that realistically, yeah, they didn't play great, but also a lot of things went against them. So it's good to see a team that doesn't seem like it's about to spiral off of one loss.
And it's more like, again, an intelligent young man like Logan O'Connor on Altitude yesterday said it. He slips a little bit. He's like, hey, listen, the first game back after, for my 50th time, proving my point, he says, hey, and but that's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. You know what I mean? He's falling into the, because you don't want to use that as an excuse. It's just, well, you throw it out there because it's a reality. And you know what I mean? And I just want to make sure everyone understands that.
Yeah. It's a weird game. And again, I said it the other night. This one really is only going to hold meaning based on what they do next against Nashville.
There you go.
If they lose the next one, then yeah, you're like, all right, you've lost 2 in a row.
Yep.
You have to fix this now.
Yep.
If they win against Nashville, you look at that game against Utah and go, all right, that was a one-off thing. Whatever, move on with life.
Absolutely.
Again, but you have the letdown factor of the first game back. But I think the other thing that I'll give them maybe a little bit of a pass on, depending on how things go tomorrow in Nashville, is if they are all still sick.
Yeah, of course. There are other factors.
If the team's got the flu, the team's got the flu. I mean, again, it's that physics thing you can't really come back from.
You add it all together, and this is what you got.
Yeah, it is.
It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, and that's the other point, right? You take out 3 bad bounces, you might not lose that game sick and let down game.
Easily could have scored 3 or 4 goals if they were that much better. So
Vejmelka got a good. It sounds like a Swiss chocolate, but he had some nice saves. So all in all, I wouldn't be worried about that game last night one bit.
No,
let them be. I mean, Phoenix, Utah Hockey Club. They did their job. Let them feel good about their game as they should. But let them feel good. Let them believe that's it's all good.
If that's what it takes for Utah to win, I would love to face them in the first round. I'll put it to you that way. You're not going to get that many bounces across a 7-game series.
I know you haven't said it a lot, but is the first game back difficult after a long road trip?
Nah, I think it's pretty easy.
It's got to be not hard. I mean, you're back home in your own bed, right? It's simple.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah. I thought we'd get to 5,003 before we moved on from it.
But I know Utah played 4 and 6. I know, as somebody told me last night. No, I know, I get that. I can show you a lot of 4 and 6s that are totally different than what the Avs just went through.
4 and 6 isn't 20 and 28 or whatever it was for the Avs. Yeah.
Moving on a smidge, we're talking today about legacy. 4 years ago on this day, the hockey world lost a really great guy. This guy lost an awesome dad. Coco lost a husband. The kiddos lost a grandpa. Pierre's passing 4 years ago was incredibly sad. And I know what an amazing human he was just from my interactions with him. But it's a day to kind of celebrate what he's done and the man that he was, not a day to be overly remorseful.
No, I mean, bigger than life. We talk about glue guys, and like he was a glue guy, and that was his strength. Lovable person, great manager, great hockey person. But at the end of the day, that didn't define him. Mm-mm. He was a great human being, and I think whoever played for the Avalanche and played under him or worked with him or alongside with him, and he always said that he was so grateful to be always surrounded by the greatest people, around them, and I think that's a strength of strength and not weakness, to surround yourself with strong people, and from Charlotte Graham to that was so instrumental to their success, to everybody that's ever worked there, from coaches to front office people to the downstairs guys that you talk about, which is the equipment guys, medical guys. It was fun. And to the fans, I think it was a love affair, and I think it was great, and that's why Denver will always be home for us, and that's why he's resting here. And it's great. I mean, like I said, for me, you can't imagine that 4 years go by like that, and everyone's had unfortunate, having to deal with losses, and everybody deals with it in a different way. But when it's a personal a figure, meaning like public figure. Sorry, it's a little different. And but hey, people have been great, and the legacy. And I think you walk into Pepsi Center. Ball Arena. My fault, John. I apologize. But I think you feel it, and it's home, and forever grateful, to be here in Colorado. And certainly were unbelievable years and unbelievable decades of success, that this team, went through, and fun to see the legacy now with the Chris's and Joes of the world that, have been awesome. It's fun to watch. Again, every day we're blessed to say this Avalanche 2.0 is awesome. And again, he was a big part of Avalanche 1.0, but, it's kind of nice to see that there's continuity. It's great.
I'd say he's a huge part of Avalanche 1.0. It was nice to go to the rink today. We were at Family Sports. We got there a little bit early. You got to sauce the puck around today to an aspiring hockey lover, so that was fun. I thought that was very fitting. Got to say hey to Dad, and then obviously the boys skated for a little bit. But certainly the fingerprints that Pierre put on the Avalanche, and more so just on lives. And I think as giant of a man as he was on the hockey side of things, from the agent to the GM, just the impact he had on the people that he worked with. That's the overarching thing that you hear about Pierre. I was lucky enough to get to know him well, also just through Eric. And no matter what, you always felt like the most important person in the room.
Yeah, look. Pierre's time in Colorado, I was a fan, and I think the legacy that he's built, that I've seen travel down through this team for its entire existence, is they're a hockey team that at every waking moment is trying to make themselves the best they can be.
Yeah.
Every single moment. And as a kid, it was unbelievable what Pierre did. Every year it felt like that he went out and got the best player on the planet to come play for the team. And obviously, hockey's really hard, and some years that doesn't work out. But even going through the following years where you have the downtimes in Colorado Avalanche history, I think a lot of people don't realize, even when they were missing the playoffs, even in the Patrick Waugh coaching era, they were going for it. They were making moves. And maybe they didn't do as good a job as historically Pierre was at making the right moves to make this team unbelievably competitive. But even then, they were going for it. Even in the 48-point season, which we're going to have MacFarland will talk to us about a little bit here.
Yeah, we got some guests coming today.
But even in that season, they were not trying to tank. That was a team that was going for it. And obviously it went disastrously crazy bad. But I think it's something that gets overlooked by the Avalanche fan base, that this is not a team that goes into seasons says, we're just trying to be okay this year. They are trying to win every single game, every single year. And of course that's impossible to do, but the personnel, the moves they make, it's really fun to watch a team that is committed to being the best they can be.
It is Stanley Cup or bust, and they have said that. And though even the fact that there have been several new GMs since Pierre was here, it's his fingerprints all over the organization and these GMs, listen, from Joe to C-Mac, they have their own way of doing things, but don't think for a second that the influence, there's always the whispers and the ghosts of Pierre that are in their ear, and you'll hear them talk about that a little bit. We're going to hear from C-Mac in just a moment, sort of about the impact that Pierre has had on him and how it's influenced the way he makes decisions with this current Avalanche team. What do you think the biggest thing that Dad was most proud of? And I'm going to ask you this a few times today. First of all, what was the move he was most proud of as a GM? What do you think the one thing, if you had to say, that he really hung his hat on?
Well, I'm going to say, and it's exactly what you saw last week, is when you have a core that's as spectacular as it is and as it was, you owe it to yourself, and your whole staff owes it to them to give them the best chance they can to get to that trophy. And we all talk about a career, how short a career can be and how short a window can be. And I think that was his proudest thing to say, I got to give these guys a shot. You know what I mean? Because we're lucky to have those guys. And I think if you ask Joe, I mean, or whoever, you know, I mean, bring the guys back from back then, they would tell you, we couldn't be more thankful because he gave us a chance. When I say he would be the first guy to tell you, I'm only as good as the people surrounding me. He would tell, you know, the Goos of the world and the Jean and Charlotte and everybody, the whole staff, the pro guys, the amateur guys, the guys downstairs. It was one big family, and he made you feel very important. Didn't matter who you were, he made you feel very important. And I think that's the proudest thing you can say. He gave them a chance, and I think the guys would tell you that they were appreciative of that. And at the end of the day, you gather all the info and you do it with your staff, and you're not afraid to pull the trigger. And I think that you can't be afraid to be afraid. And then you got the wrong kidneys, to, you know, the foundation to do that job. It's a tough job. It's not a job I would ever want to do. I tell CMAC that all the time. You know, I think these guys are absolutely off their rockers, you know, to do that kind of job. And, you know, but it's fun to see. You know, it's fun to see. And I think that, obviously, like Rudo just said, that feeling's never gone away.
Legendary builder, incredible architect, Hockey Hall of Famer because of it. And if you want the Pierre Lacroix of the flooring industry, well, then we have that for you, because Empire today is hands down the best of the best. They're the Pierre Lacroix of flooring, because you get that shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and that price match guarantee. They are the best place to get new flooring, and you know, because of that, there's copycats out there, but nobody can beat Empire today on quality, service, and speed. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need and not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. Not to mention that virtual floor designer is perfect. You can just upload your room, put the flooring you think you want in there, get a look at it with your decor, with your room, with your ambiance, and make sure you are making the right choice at the right time. They service their own warranties, and if there is an issue that does arise, all you got to do is just call Empire. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive $350 off discount when they use the promo code DNVR. Restrictions do apply. See EmpireToday.com/DNVR for details.
Get the real floors. Don't go buy linoleum.
I'm just going to add one little thing there. You didn't want him installing your floor, Empire, please. It would have been bad. Just FYI.
Yeah, Pierre's more the guy you want to drink a beer with.
Yeah,
so go get yourself a Breckenridge Brewery, the official craft beer of DNVR. They have dozens of flavors. If you like beer at all, they got something you'll like. I promise you that. Whether it's an IPA, an amber, a Kolsch, you name it, they've got it all when it comes to Breckenridge Brewery. And you can get it anywhere in the U.S. Use the Breck Beer Locator online at breckbrew.com to find it near you. Or if you're local, come on down to the DNVR bar. You get $2 off Breckenridge Brewery Avalanche during an Avs game. So a great deal on some craft beer. Again, breckenridgebrewery.com. Go get with them today and get yourself some Breck Brew.
All right, well, we are blessed because the hockey family looks out for the hockey family, and certainly a man that Pierre Lacroix had quite a bit of influence on is the man stewarding the ship right now, and in my opinion, doing a hell of a job. CMAC has already shown that he is and wants to continue the tradition and do what Pierre used to say, make sure the logo comes first, and that's about winning right now. He certainly has made some moves in the last few days. Just yesterday, the three of us had an opportunity to sit down, yourself, myself, and CMAC, to talk about the legacy and the fingerprints of Pierre Lacroix on the way that he is currently steering the ship.
DNVR is here at Ball Arena with the GM of the Colorado Avalanche, Chris MacFarland, celebrating the legacy of the Avalanche, but also that GM position with people like Pierre Lacroix in that history. First of all, Chris, thank you for joining us. We have Nick Gismondi, Nathan Rudolph here. It's kind of big shoes to fill. There's only ever 32 GMs in the NHL. What's it like being part of the Avalanche organization and the legacy the GM position has here?
Well, you know, obviously it's a dream come true, right? I think you hit the nail on the head there. There's 32 of these jobs, so it's definitely not lost on me how fortunate enough the opportunity is to have one of those jobs, a dream come true. You know, when I started, 25, whatever it's been years ago, I wanted to be a scout. And then, worked your way up to be an assistant GM. And then the cherry on top of the sundae is you pinch yourself. And every day I get to walk into a rink is a day where I thank the big man upstairs, and I'm very fortunate to do what I do. So, but to do it, on any team in the NHL is a privilege. Obviously, this organization with giants, and Joe Sakic as a player, and then to cut my teeth here working for Joe and working with Joe, and obviously, I was in the early stages of my professional career when the Avs were killing it, and back in the day, and Pierre Lacroix was a monster in the business, and his bravery, his the big deals that he made, the guts, just those were things that it made you take notice. When Pierre Lacroix made a move, those were take notice types of moves.
You knew him, and you know that family well, and I know, and we'll talk about it in a moment, what he means to you. But do you find yourself maybe channeling him a little bit sometimes in the chair? You want to make your own mark, no question about it, and you have.
I think it's hard, but when you certainly have, you read up on him, you know the work that he did. I wasn't in the Avs organization, obviously, when he's here, but I know the respect and that Joe had for him, and you hear the stories, and Craig Billington, who played here and then worked for Pierre, and then obviously Charlotte Graham and all the stories, and you pick their brains on things that when you made this deal or that deal, and how you came to those sort of things, and hearing Joe talk about the dynamics of the behind the scenes of sometimes of the whys, but he made some obviously the Patty Waugh deals is a huge standout deal, and he just had there was an air, right? Pierre had an air and aura that very few people have. And I think, from somebody who was outside the organization and watching that at the time, you always study the stuff and the deals. And then you hear the people who knew him and the respect that he got and how he treated his staff. I think that's probably as important and impressive as the on ice and the hockey decisions that he made. He had the respect of everybody who worked for him.
Yeah.
Kind of a fun question here. The Avs have yet to build a statue of anyone. Who's your number one on that list? Maybe Pierre, maybe Joe?
I think it certainly, you can't go wrong. I think there's a decent amount that could come right after that as well. They've had some tremendous players, and obviously Pierre as a builder is, would be first and foremost. And, Joe's obviously done both. So I think those are hard to think of the Avs logo without thinking of those two gentlemen.
We talk a lot about in hockey the family of it, right, and the brotherhood and the connectivity that is there, and whether you were a part of it for a long time or just a short time, that happens, and that I think is one of the things that I remember most about Pierre when I met him 15 years ago. Instantly, it was like, hey, okay, you're good. You're part of it. You look out for my grandkids. You're one of my son's best friends. Like, do you feel that that's a thing in hockey and a legacy that you've continued here in with the Avs organization? Do you treat it like a family?
I without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the one thing when I came here that, I think Joe, it comes natural to him. But but I think obviously Joe played for, Pierre, and Pierre started that. Whether, culture, whatever, that word means different things in a lot of different ways. But I think Pierre firmly entrenched the importance of family and treating people, not only the players and coaches and the locker room, but, his staff would certainly say that was a big thing about him. And I think that's something Joe has in him, but I certainly think he would echo that Pierre, the way he treated the players, and I think that became part of Joe's fabric too. And I'd like to think that our staff would say the same, and our players would say the same today. It's a family with within your family structure, right? It's your work family, and hopefully we've continued that. That's for sure.
There is not as much history as an original six team here, but the Avs have certainly packed a lot into what will be 30 years next year.
Yep.
you are obviously part of that legacy Stanley Cup champion here. Is there a certain mark you want to be remembered by when this is all said and done for you as GM?
Wow, that's a deep question.
Yeah.
I think, Rudo, to be honest, like obviously my life has been very blessed as somebody who was not a good player and who really just wanted to work in the NHL and be a scout, and to get into these positions and with the organizations I've been in, and very blessed. I've got no complaints. I think obviously the Stanley Cup was amazing, but I think at the end of the day, for me, it's going to come down to the relationships I've built in hockey, and whether it's with the coaches and Bedsy and Joe and the players and our staff and our scouts, that whenever 20 years from now or 10 or whenever it is, that if people think of me or hear my name, they'll think fondly and that he was a good dude.
Even at the highest level of the NHL, it's more about the people than the sport.
It might sound cliche, but I don't feel that I've worked. I worked coming out of college in jobs that was miserable at, and when I got my foot in the door at 28 or 29 with the Blue Jackets, I've been very blessed and haven't felt like I've worked. And we've had some tough days and tough seasons and a tough second year here. And it was tough, but I can honestly say it's never a bad day. And I think that's a thing that Joe would echo. Joe was the same that year. We had 46 points as the year we were fortunate to win the Stanley Cup. And I think that's something that sticks with you, and you don't have to be a miserable, person. Losing's terrible and it hurts, it permeates, you feel it. But, I think that's a leadership style that I think Joe brings, and we're going to be all right no matter what. And I think that's hopefully something that I also can bring, because it's not always going to be sunshine and roses. And if you want to stay in this business, there's going to be a time 5 or 6 years from now, 7, 8, whatever it is, where there's, the superstars are not going to be here. So enjoy it while you can, and then hopefully be able to rebuild it back up.
Pierre talked about that a lot, the highs and the lows of a pressure position like the GM. I mean, it's just, that's a hockey season. But, I think the one thing that always stuck with me that Pierre would talk about is that you just have to make sure that everybody around you is okay, and that your highs outweigh the lows, and always just finding a way to get to that point. Even if you're in that dip, and even if it seems like the world is coming down on your head, you just got to do one thing, make one move, make one decision to sort of kind of change that trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like those were coming out of that, surviving that really rough year, and ownership continuing to show faith, and obviously Joe, I mean, he's a legend, but us, our staff and stuff it means a lot. And I think, our ownership has been incredible throughout that process. And I'm sure Pierre, was in his time, and when you go through the tough times, but it's not, when you're building and you've got cap space and you've got draft picks, it's a different kind of fun.
Yeah.
As opposed to, the last few years where we've got to really be creative, and we're, whether it's injuries or, things, that's hockey, and you're limited, and you can't get involved in certain things, and it's frustrating, but it's just different, right? You're an established team, you're at a different part of your cycle, but coming out of the 46-point season, we're swimming in cap space, we've got picks, we're starting a prospect pool. Now you've got to use those wisely, right? And you can go get a Devon Taves, you can get a Burakovsky, you can get involved in Kadri. Like it's just different, right?
Yeah.
So, but both are incredible, and it's fun.
You have stewarded this organization to a really impressive spot. I my first year, obviously, covering you guys day in and day out, but watching it from afar for a long time. Not just saying it because this is what we're talking about, but it is very Pierre-esque in the way that you're handling things. And I can see the way you treat the staff, and that room is a very good room. And I think just from me to you have a lot to do with that.
I appreciate that. I mean, you're being very kind. I think
Also honest, though.
yeah, well, that's good. But I mean, like I said, and Joe, I'm sure pick up things from the people you work with, right? And and hearing the stories again about Pierre and how respected he was by his staff, and obviously Joe commands that respect in ways that not many others can. But I think for me, I got to be myself.
Yeah.
I fall in love with my players. I fall in love with my staff. You want everyone to have success. And, Pierre was a big presence, right? Like he can command a room just from when I watched him from afar, and very comfortable in doing the camera and the media. I'm not really that. I'm certainly not that presence, but I am comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah,
but there are things that you can admire, and the one thing I know is that he was a good person, and I think that's the thing that carries forward in his passion for hockey. And I think that's the one thing that if you're working in hockey, you're passionate and you're fortunate. And I think that's maybe the commonalities of things. He certainly was a giant. And if I can just treat the staff and have that kind of respect, then I'm doing okay.
You've already got one cup in the bag.
I'd say you're doing pretty good.
Between you and Pierre, the Avs are the blessed ones, I think, to have you two at the top of the organization.
Well,
so
Pierre and Joe, and there's a line in our ownership, and I love my time in Columbus. They treated me awesome, but it was a very much a blessing to, if I had to leave, to come here at that time was a really good opportunity, and it's worked out extremely well for me. So
I just have one more for you, and then we'll let you go. You obviously have a very important, busy job, but
not really. I'm just going to go. I'm going to go have a coffee and work out.
I'm not sure Pierre worked out, so you got that on him too. Wow. But do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite memory or personal story with him that you would care to share, if at all?
The only thing that,
or story you heard maybe, or
like there's a lot of stories. Some I probably
can't tell,
but honestly, I think the thing that I was very, I was younger when those guys when they moved to Colorado, when they were a giant in the league. We were just starting out, and again, some of the big deals that he made, like he was not gun shy, right? Whether it's, Matt Sundin and, Patrick Waugh. Like if there was the one thing about Pierre, if there was a premier guy or someone that he felt the team needed, there was no, like, I can imagine him. There's no second guessing. He's just, I'm getting him. I don't, it doesn't matter. No. Like that type of bravado, that type of confidence, tenacity is something that I think it's not always easy to have, right? You look at it, you can overthink things, and you got to have a strong staff, around you. But I think Pierre had that sort of that feel, and if he wanted something, he was either going to get it done or die trying. And I think that's something that I certainly, as a young guy starting out, was like, something different about this cat.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're good. The Chris MacFarland, GM of the Avs, one more time, thank you for coming on.
Thanks
We appreciate
so
you so much.
Yep.
This has been DNVR for Gizmo. I'm Rudo, and we'll catch you in the rest of the show.
Appreciate it so much. We'll talk about that in just a moment, but also we want to talk about the fact that you should be betting on this team, because with that man at the helm, good things are happening, that's for sure. We are, of course, presented by Bet365, and Bet365, the official partner of the Colorado Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets, and they are a lot of fun, and you guys should be getting in on it. I've enjoyed it, really. I have. It's fun just to have a little bit of stake in the game. There's only one NHL game tonight, so I have to figure something else out to to get in on. But every day, Bet365 is powering up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win with more than over 10,000 boosts every single month. And they have some custom DNVR boosts that are a ton of fun. The NHL early payout is also really cool because if your team goes up by 3 goals or more, instantly you're a winner. And I really like that. I probably should just start betting on that kind of thing because, I'm not winning anywhere else right now. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Sign up, use the code DNVR365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets. Whatever the moment, it is never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 plus and physically located in Colorado. Make sure you're gambling responsibly. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
I know this is hard to believe, but the Avs are allowed to play home games occasionally.
Sometimes.
And if you want to go to those home games, go get yourself on Game Time. You can join over 15 million people that use Game Time to get their tickets. And when you sign up with code DNVR, you get $20 off your first purchase with the Game Time app. You can use their Game Time Picks feature. That gets you the best seats for the best prices. It filters out all of the junk that you don't want to see, just gets you the tickets you want, and you get the price you're looking for. You can even do it for things like the theater, concerts, movies, whatever it is. Game Time has you covered. It even goes beyond sports, but let's be honest, you're here for the sports tickets. We all know why you're here. You can do it for the Avs, the Broncos, the Nuggets. You can do it in any state in the country. It doesn't matter who your team is. If you're trying to get into a game, Game Time has you covered. So go use that Game Time Picks feature, and Game Time guarantees you the best price on tickets anywhere. If you find them cheaper somewhere else, they'll give you 110% of the ticket price back to your account. Get that Game Time app today with the link down in the description and use that DNVR code to get $20 off.
So many special things out of that. Sit down with C-Mac. Love getting to talk with him. I think and I've sung the praises. I think he's a brilliant hockey mind. Have even before I started covering this team. But it's cool the impact that Pierre still continues to have on this organization and the lives that he has helped and affected, like C-Max and our next guest.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, you do it your own way, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think they'll tell you. It's like when people start coaching, like, hey, who are you going to be like? Are you like this coach, that coach, or that coach? No, I'm going to be like myself. You know what I mean? You just take a little bit of, what suits your personality, and you go from there. And I think that's what those guys have mastered, starting with C-Mac. And I really enjoy C-Mac, and this is nothing new. I say it all the time. And a great person, great family person, and great to hear him. Great for him to give us a little bit of time on a special day today for my family especially.
Yeah, and I know it meant a lot to you for him to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Look, C-Mac is the GM of the new generation of Avs fans. I know a lot of people think of that as Joe Sakic as well, but a little look behind the curtain. Even when Joe Sakic was GM, C-Mac was doing a lot of work as the assistant GM here in Colorado, and that's the reason he ultimately got promoted to GM and Sakic up to president. That guy he might be the hardest working GM in the league. Every single day, every single minute, that dude's on his phone. He's checking up on what statistics are going on. He's talking to his analytics people. All the time, that dude is working his tail off to make the Avs the best version he can.
He's present and he's visible, and I think one of the poignant things that that came out of that, and I had, as I'm getting to know him better as well, since I see him now more on a regular basis, I love I think what my favorite part about him is the fact that he said it in that interview. I fall in love with my players. Yep. I fall in love with my staff. You can't go wrong when you're in that situation. If you love something that much, well, you obviously want to live, breathe. It's not a job for him, and he mentioned that as well too, which I thought was very special. He says he looks up and he thanks the big man every single day when he gets to walk into that rink and do that job. There's 32 of those gigs. Yep. There's 32 of those gigs, and that struck a chord with me. That's how I felt when I was covering teams. There's 32 NHL teams. If you're working for an NHL team, okay, you're doing something right. If you're playing for an NHL team, you're doing something right. And I just think it's super special, that the embodiment of a guy like C-Mac is not only to do the right things to protect the logo and represent the logo, but to make sure you're doing all the right things to protect and look out for all of the things that make the logo the logo.
Yeah, and lead by example. And I think you just said it. He's a hardworking man. He works.
Oh, yes.
And I think that when your staff sees that, they can appreciate that. And I think when you're demanding things, then they can't go back and say, well, yeah, but you don't do anything. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he's done it. He's been a hard worker for a lot of years. But at the end of the day, you know, there's the hockey person, there's the man, and then you put it all together, and then you get respect and hard work. And those are the characteristics that you want in a person leading your franchise. And he's going to be himself. And that's the best part of it. He's going to be himself, and then use the help around them to make them, like I said earlier, a lot like my dad did, surround yourself with strong people and believe in the people that are with you and fall in love with the people that are working with you. And I think it's awesome.
Just to kind of tie in the legacy, because I think the thing I think about most for both, well, more than both, MacFarland, Sakic, and Pierre, they all made the trades that made the difference when it comes to winning chips. And if you look at Chris MacFarland's legacy, Andrei Burakovsky, Jacob McDonald, Nazem Kadri, there's Curtis McDermott, Josh Manson, Nico Sturm, Andrew Cogliano, Arturi Lehkonen, all guys traded for by Chris MacFarland that were part of that cup win in 2022. And yeah, there are some other trades that maybe didn't work out quite as well and all of that. But you look at the effort that these GMs put in to make that next move, to make that extra step. And they're a big reason why they got over the hump. If you go back to Pierre, there's a million trades you could talk about here. Obviously, Patrick Waugh, Rob Blake, Ray Bourque. The list goes on and on and on about the million little moves and big moves that they made. Before they were even a hockey team, they're trading for Claude Lemieux. It's the commitment to trying to make the team better every day.
No, it's well said. Well said. And here's what I'll say, because I've lived it for so many years, and I think Chris would or Joe would say the same thing. Is, my dad used to always say, "Hey, listen, if you bat 7 for 10,
you're doing pretty good.
Definitely winning the championship in the batting, whatever you call that, in MLB,
title,
right?
Yeah.
Batting title, like." And at the end of the day, but if every day you just harp on the 3 you missed, if that's what you do, it's a negative environment. And at the end of the day, you live and learn from those 3 that you missed. But if you went swinging for it and you went for the right reasons, and I'll use just, again, not towards the person, I'm talking about Theo Fleury, they went for it.
Yeah.
They ended up being short. They ended up being in the semifinals, losing in Game 7 to Dallas, right? And it cost you, for example, Robin Regehr, that ended up playing 15 years in the NHL. So, yeah, but if you just next time you're like, oh, I'm not swinging because this one didn't work, then you wouldn't have gotten Rob Blake. You wouldn't have gotten Ray Bourque. You wouldn't have gotten, you know what I mean?
The modern equivalent, you struck out on Ryan Johansson, but you go out and did Casey Middlestat.
That's my point. You can't be afraid to be afraid. You know what I mean? And that's the tough part, because I say it all the time and I don't make fun of it, and I'm not making fun of Chad, but it's more, it's not Xbox. It's tough to make trades. You're disrupting lives. You're disrupting people you love. I put it on Twitter today. I put a picture of my dad with a Chris Drury jersey with his nephew, and it's like, he liked Chris Drury. It was never personal.
Yeah.
People think it's like, you're doing something because you need to do it. It's business.
Yeah, it's business. It's a business. We kind of went out of order in terms of the order of GMs in Colorado.
We did a little bit.
We did it for timing purposes.
There are 3 that are a lot more impactful than the other ones. So.
Yes, but however, Joe, as the GM, you kind of touched on how CMAC as the assistant was a big part of it, but Joe in his own right put a ton of fingerprints all over this organization on the management side.
Yeah, I think Joe's GM tenure is fascinating because the Avs wanted to turn over a new leaf and start a new era. With, at the time, it was Sakic and Waugh coming into the organization. And obviously, the first year that went great, and then they went kind of through a stretch of a learning process as an organization of how to actually operate and function as a team, trying to build back into a quality NHL team from a team that wasn't where they wanted to be. And I think there were some hard lessons learned there, but ultimately, it's funny. Guys like Joe Sakic, they're winners. They find a way to win in whatever role it is, whether it's being an NHL player, whether it's being an NHL GM, whether it's pick up hockey on the street on Saturday night. Those dudes just find a way to win. And the Avs historical legacy is going to be a winning franchise. They haven't even existed for 30 years yet, and they've won 3 Stanley Cups. How many organizations would like 3 Stanley Cups across the last 30 years? There aren't many that have done better than that. So,
outstanding. I mean, that's, like I said, it's a privilege, you know what I mean, for those guys to go to work every day, if you call that work. And I think it's always
really
been
work.
that way. Yeah,
It's a little bit of work.
And same thing for us. You
Same-
know,
yeah, I haven't worked a
Rudo
day
says
in
it
my
all the
life.
time.
man.
Neither have I.
So it's great. You put it all together, and it's excellence. It's not easy to get excellence. It's not easy to demand excellence, and it's not easy to achieve it. But you certainly have the right people, right? At the helm and at the leadership top of the pyramid. And you can't forget one thing too. You need a strong ownership group, and this ownership group, are they perfect or whatever it is? Like, to some people, it's not for people to decide. At the end of the day, they've been very successful, and I think that if you ask Chris or Joe or Pierre, like, did they enjoy working the way that it is here, they would tell you absolutely and 100%. And I think they are the envy of a lot of franchises around America in any sport, that they would love to have this ownership group.
I can't say it any better. It's a privilege that we get to cover this franchise with the guys
Absolutely.
that they've had at the top over the years. It's awesome.
Yep.
And a big reason why we get to cover this franchise is because we got to pay some bills sometimes. And that's what we're going to do right now. Being a good GM means that you have to be in constant contact. And if you're not a GM in the NHL, that's okay, because constant contact can help you. And we can talk about that, because I want to talk about your goals. How are you tracking with the ones that you set for your business earlier this year? Avs are doing pretty good right now. Are you close? If not, well, then you got to get there. And if you don't or can't get there, you got to understand why. And that's why the guys at Constant Contact can help you. We are already approaching Q1 here, and it's going to be business as usual again. Things are going to start back up, and it's going to be crazy. If you think you can, then you can. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's why goals are so powerful. Putting your business goals out into the world makes you likely to achieve them. So try to find a way to do the best thing for your business. And one of the easiest things is reaching out to the friends over at Constant Contact. They'll help you out with your year-end goals. And no matter how experienced you are with digital marketing, Constant Contact has the tools to make your marketing run smoother. It is time to put the go in your 2024 business goals with email, social, SMS, and customized marketing campaigns built for you in just a few clicks. Ready, set, go to ConstantContact.com/AllCity and start your free trial today. Go to ConstantContact.com/AllCity for your free trial.
Look, once you're in Constant Contact, make sure you're also eating right.
Got to do that.
You know the people on this show love to eat. This is where HelloFresh comes in. 1, it makes making your meals a whole lot easier. But 2, it's also helped me a lot. I use it at home with my wife, and it's helped me lose a bunch of the weight that I've lost over the last year or so, because they give you farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. One of my biggest problems and why I had the weight that I had is because for dinner, sure, I'll go back for thirds. I'll get that third portion of whatever it is we're eating. You don't have to deal with that with HelloFresh. HelloFresh gives you your meal. It's portioned perfectly. You eat the amount you're supposed to. It helps you out. And, of course, they have a bunch of delicious different meals, too. So you got to get in with HelloFresh. They do a great job. I can't recommend them enough. This is one of the products that I use maybe most regularly of the ones that are sponsored by us. So go jump in with them. You can go choose your menu every single week. They have over 100 add-on items, and you can add whatever you want, whether it's breakfast, lunches, dinners, you name it. HelloFresh has you covered for every meal of the day if you want them to. Jump in, get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free avalanche, and then get 7, it is applied across 7 boxes for new subscribers only, and it varies by plan. Again, that's 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free avalanche. HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit in America.
You do look good.
Feel good too. It's you lose weight and you feel better. It's crazy.
I should probably get on this one as well in your routine rather than some of the other ones that I'm on.
So someone on this podcast makes it harder to keep the weight off than others. All right?
I've been good lately, just so you know. I'm
You have been
behind the
good.
abs
You're
and
doing
points.
good.
No, I've been
Were
good.
you on keto or what? I saw you didn't eat the bun the other night.
secret sauce right now.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm behind the Avs in points. Like I said I was going to beat them.
Gotta catch up, buddy.
I'm going to beat them. And I hope they win the division and Western Conference. I'm not hoping for a 48-point season.
Well, you got a little help with the injuries at the top.
Okay.
We've been talking about the legacy of this organization, and most specifically on the anniversary of the passing of the man in the rafters, Pierre Lacroix, that being today. We had an opportunity to talk to several of the men in the organization that he has really had an impact on. We heard from CMAC, but certainly one of the other giants on multiple sides, not only the management side, but the player side, is one of the biggest names still in the organization. And now we'd like to bring in Joe Sakic for our Insider Access segment, powered by Verizon. Visit a Verizon store and switch to their award-winning 5G network, and you get a $200 gift card. All right, talking about the legacy of Pierre Lacroix with a man who knows him very well and certainly has had an influence, president of the Colorado Avalanche, Joe Sakic. Joe, we talk about Pierre, and you knew him better than I did, but I think when we think about what the legacy of Pierre was, it wasn't just the moves that he maybe made on the ice, but it was the impact he had on people, staff, players. It became a huge family for him.
It really did. I mean, and that's what he said right when he took over in Quebec, that he wanted a family atmosphere, family environment. Yes, he had to make tough decisions, and some decisions hurt him, but he still did it because he had the motto, like, as a general manager and then president, it's what's best for the logo. So he'd always say that. So
Pierreism.
But he cared about his players. He cared about the families, and he really wanted. He always felt that the closer your group was, the better chemistry you had, the better chance you had of when you have your ups and downs, and you have your downs, the closer your group is, the quicker they'll get out of that situation. And he was a remarkable man.
When you think about maybe the impact that he had on you, and everybody does it their own way. Nobody's trying to be Pierre, but there's always influences and hints of it. What do you think the biggest thing you took away from him was that you sort of apply to your role now?
Yeah, I think the one thing, well, two things. One, if you believe in something, if you do what your gut tells you, and don't worry about anything else. Are you going to make mistakes? Sure. Yeah, you're going to make mistakes, but if you have a conviction and you strongly believe in it, just do it. And that was one of them. And also, I think what he was really good at, nothing ever came out. Mm-hmm. I know what happened in these offices stayed in these offices. Yeah. And and it's because he didn't want the players to hear anything. Right. He didn't want it to get out and have a player's feelings get hurt. There's nothing worse than hearing your name in trade talks around the league.
Sure, sure.
It's especially for your family, more so for the family than the player. So he did. He was everything was tight to the vest, and I learned that, and I appreciated that, because I think we're in this position. But as players, you appreciate just the secrecy of what he was doing, and I thought it worked.
It goes back to that family aspect of it for sure for him. Yeah. He always used to tell me how tight of a ship he ran, and that he was this very effervescent, very caring, loving man. If you've ever met him, I mean, he's a giant teddy bear. You could meet him for the first time or the 100th time, and you walk into the room, and you're the most important person in the room, even though he had the room. But he said he ran a tight ship. He said he kept it pretty. He was business when it was business.
He was business, but yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But he had fun when it was time to have fun as well. I mean, he'd play games. If we got stuck somewhere because of whatever, our charter was late, we'd end up going for dinner, and he'd be in there playing cards and having fun with the guys. But it is funny how he can be up and very emotional during a game. All right, some people are more emotional than others. He's probably at the top when it came to that being emotional and all the little things, and And if he saw something wrong, not necessarily with his players, but just in a game or calls or whatever, and yeah, he wouldn't be a happy man. He'd snap up there.
Oh yeah.
But it's funny how as soon as the game would end and he'd come down, and he'd go down by the wives' room, and none of the wives, none of the kids, no one knew that, because he'd come down and he's like just like nothing. He forgot about the game, and right there
awesome.
he was amazing with the families, and just that I don't think any of them saw that side of him. And to be honest with you, I really didn't.
Yeah.
As a player, I mean, by the time he'd come down the dressing room or wherever, he'd find a way to let it go. But the league offices, they'd hear about it. I mean, they would tell me, the guys at the office would tell me his phone calls, and it was nothing like what we heard. So it was, yeah, but he protected his players. He protected the team, protected the logo.
Protect another Pierreism.
Yeah.
We talk about those a lot all the time. I definitely Pierre Lacroix, not a guy I would want mad at me at any moment, especially if I was working for him.
No.
But also a guy that I would kill to work for. So
100%.
If you had,
you'd trust him.
100%. Yeah.
And that was it. Everything was about trust.
Yeah. And love. And you knew. And he says your family. You know your family. You call that guy, he'll come running.
He would.
Do you have, and we'll just keep you for another minute or so here, but do you have a favorite memory, like one thing that like maybe still continues to come up, or is there one thing that he maybe said to you, or one moment that you might have had that maybe kind of stands out in your mind, Joe?
I don't know if there's just one thing that stands out. Just Pierre in general. I mean, just the relationship I had with him. We had a great relationship. It was based on trust and respect. And I would just really appreciate when I did retire. And but the one thing is when I retired, I knew I was going to retire.
Yeah.
And we waited. And Pierre just had surgery on his knee, so he couldn't walk. So we're discussing when we wanted to announce it, and he's all right. Well, we got to announce it, and he couldn't walk, so he was. I said, Pierre, it's okay. You know that I'm retiring. No one else has to know. We'll wait until you're healthy, and then we'll announce it. He said, yeah, perfect. But really, a couple of years after my retirement, he asked me to come to the Board of Governors meeting with him, and he was, at the time I didn't know what he was doing, but but being Pierre, he knew what he was doing, and he just wanted to get me involved, and I think he was he wanted me to be part of the organization, and him to kind of groom me and show me the way, and I really appreciated that, because I had no intention of doing this until he brought me in, and then we had that great relationship in the office, which I never had as a player. So it was great.
When he sets his mind to something, he gets his way.
Yeah.
C-Mac was talking about that earlier, and I'm sure he had it already visioned for you.
Yeah,
and
he did.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Pierre doesn't talk about too many people lovingly, but obviously you and I have gotten to know each other, but he always spoke just extraordinary highly of you, and I know you know that. But
yeah.
Last one for you, the Hall of Fame ceremony, that was a little bit long coming. Obviously, lots of people wanted to get him in a little earlier, and certainly would have been great if he would have been there in person for it. But what an emotional time that was for you all. I hated not being there, but the speech his grandson Max gave, and just the emotions and having you there, it had to have been just you've had some incredible moments in your career, but that had to have been like, oh my gosh.
It was amazing. Deb and I went there, and we had a great time with his entire family.
Yeah.
And it is too bad that he wasn't there for that. I mean, he would have been so proud. And I'm sure he was looking down, and he was proud. He was proud, especially at Max's speech. What an incredible speech! A young man on stage like that. I mean, that's cool to do. And he was great. But it really, just to be with the entire family that weekend. I mean, it was a special moment.
Yeah. Joe, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for helping us carry on the legacy, and thanks for doing that here in this organization. You've done a wonderful job, and you're definitely the right guy.
I appreciate it. Just follow Pierre, his footsteps.
Pierre Lacroix, one of the greats, forever and always.
That was our Insider Access presented by Verizon. Thank you so much as we get ready to wrap up here to C-Mac and to Joe. And to Brennan for making sure that was all set up and just doing the wonderful things that this organization does to honor the great legacy of Pierre, your dad, on a special day, I know, and a special day, but a sad day, for the family. But we appreciate all the all the love that you've and all the stories, and for letting me be a part of it too.
I love it. It's my honor. It's my pleasure. And again, like you said, Joe, C-Mac, those guys, it's awesome. It's all family. And at the end of the day, you're there for one common goal. It's to win it all
Build
and
the
to bring a
statues,
championship.
buddy. Build the statues.
Build a
Let's
statue
go.
for the freaking Avalanche fans.
Yep.
And that's what it's for. And I think community has been a big part of this success since 95, 96.
Yeah.
And I think they've always put fans first. They've always, and it keeps going with Chris and Joe. And I think it's, very important. And I think once you have that message and you go about it, you can only look forward to more of those silver things.
Maybe we can switch it to the statue fund for our super chats here. We do have one from Melanie for $5 that says, "You guys rock. Thank you for the content. I always appreciate it. Have a great weekend. Go Avs." Thank you very much, Melanie.
The boys doing the charitable thing today. God bless them. They're over at the Children's Hospital bringing some gifts. Love that.
Yep.
Real quickly here, we got about 30 seconds left. Give me your 15-second thoughts on tomorrow.
Win.
Deep.
Don't care how, don't care why, just win.
Very deep, very, very insightful.
I love it. No, Baruto's right. Because if you win tomorrow, yesterday's forgotten, right? You know what I mean? That I love the fact that he said that earlier, and it's so true. And move on, and it's a fun game. It's the greatest game on earth.
All right, I will be at the rink tomorrow. The guys at TIFF will have you all squared away for the pregame show. I'll bring you some intermissions, and then, of course, we'll have postgame for you. Puck drop tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Make sure you hang out with the guys for the watch-along as well. Thank you so much for tuning in for this one. Special show on a special day, remembering a very, very special man. Call your mom, call your dad if you can, and make sure you do something to make somebody's life better.